Hello, welcome back. Now this is the face of a very sulky me because I've broken my camera, so we are back on old technology here, which is my phone, and I am not very happy about it. Bizarrely, it broke literally 5 minutes after I just ordered a replacement camera anyway, because it isn't waterproof and we had quite a bit of rain today, which has delayed me from filming. It's 5 o'clock on Friday. Normally I get these videos edited Friday and Saturday to get out on Sunday, so I am really up against it. But it's time for some of those September jobs, the really important September jobs. And I'm making a start with these vegetable beds, and on Tuesday in the upcoming episode of So Chatty we'll be talking about managing your growing spaces, and this is an absolute prime example. Because it's one thing to have a lot of growing space, and that is absolutely great, but sometimes we can either overplant things if we have too much space, or simply not have the time to work it properly and harvest and eat all of the produce. And I definitely think that I fall into the latter category, and I'm going to be talking about that in a bit of a deep dive with Kerry on Tuesday night. And now, as if realising that I've broken the camera, it wasn't bad enough, I've just realised that I've recorded the entire start of this video with a microphone that wasn't working. So now we're back to full systems go, I think. Such an amateur. I have absolutely no idea what I would do with this many spring onions all picked at once. It's not like it's a market garden and I'm going to be selling them. And that's one of the issues that I've had throughout the year. It's sowing things to excess simply because I've got the space. And part of that is thinking that maybe family members or friends would eat some of our excesses, but for whatever reason, that does not seem to have happened as much this year as it did last year. Another bed with things to empty are these radicchio out of this bed, and getting rid of things that are starting to go over and get a bit soft and mushy is going to surely help deter the slugs, which are going to start coming in a vengeance shortly, simply because, well, we're getting a bit of rain now, so the ground's getting wetter. Now, what I've discovered about radicchio, unfortunately, is that I only like it if it's like a little teeny tiny seedling. It probably never needs to get in the ground for me to eat it. I like the tiny leaves that you get in the little bags of salad. When it gets this size, I don't like it. It's too bitter. Now, if you've watched episode 2 of So Chatty that was broadcast on Kerry's channel on Tuesday, and if you haven't, I will link it in the description. Please do go and watch it. You'll know that we were discussing green manures, and I said that I was going to experiment with green manures in these 4 beds this side of the polytunnel. Last week I sowed some crimson clover in this bed, and I have a little mix of things here to sow. All-time favourite being phacelia, and I have a couple of oriental salad mixes which I'm going to be putting in, and then I have a box of random bits of forage peas, and there's a few beans and things in there, things that had fallen out of the packet, so I don't actually know what they are, but I'm going to be putting those in just to see how far they can grow before we get the first frosts. And if the frost the frost will knock them back, then hopefully they will at least have put a little bit of nitrogen into one of these beds. Now I might as well start with this bed here, and I will just sprinkle these peas in here. Now, it might attract rodents, and if it does, well, so be it. Hopefully not, though. I haven't had any issues with rodents this year. Seem to have a lot of cats about this year. And what I will do is just stick the dibber in around them, and it makes a hole that'll make them just drop into it. So I will just get them covered in a little bit. I have absolutely no idea if this will work. I'm quite shocked at how cavernous the ground is when I just stick the dibber in really lightly. You can see I'm just going next to them because I've already placed them there, and they just kind of collapse into the hole I'm making. They're all buried under the surface, so I'm just going to tamp the soil down a bit, more to make it look like it hasn't already been dug over by rodents, so I'll get more of an idea if something has, as a result of having just levelled it a little bit. Now this bed here, I'm going to do last year's favourite, which was the Phacelia. And again, I'm just going to be broadcast sowing in this bed. There's lots of seeds here. Oops. It's a little bit windy, so forgive my foot on the bed. And then for these, I'm just going to rake them in a little bit, spread them around. And then in this bed here, I'm going to be doing the Oriental type salad leaves. These will be ready in 30 days, so I probably will harvest some of these, to be fair. And then I might add some broad beans or field beans in here, but I won't be direct sowing those just yet. I don't even have the seeds. When I have them, I might sow them in modules so that I can put them out a little bit more uniformed and compare how they do to the few that are growing in the forage pea bed next door. Now, I'm not expecting many of these to germinate, because when I sowed them in September last year, for whatever reason, I didn't get any come up, although obviously it was a lot wetter September last year than it is so far this year. So all 4 beds there are done now with the cover crops, and I am really looking forward to seeing how they do and how they perform, having been sown that little bit earlier than they were last year. That's the plus side of having perhaps a few too many beds in the garden, that I have more empty space now moving into this period of the year. Feels like it's only been minutes since I was planting these beds out in spring and early summer. And here we are emptying them now. And these beds are still not the only other beds that I have lettuce in. Is it any wonder that I had too much to get through when it's only me that eats it? Oh my, I really am going to have a glut of spring onions. And apparently I only sowed white ones too. What was I thinking? I can tell we're heading into autumn. Mushroom season is upon us, and there's more mushrooms here in this very weedy section of path. And these paths on the edge of the plot are so weedy because a certain someone, yep, I'm talking about me, didn't keep on top of trimming down all these grasses that were growing just outside of the fence. So obviously they've set seeds which have dropped into the wood chip, and I've given myself a complete and utter nightmare. Another lesson learnt, because the path is very weedy all the way along this border now. Definitely regret that move. And still on the subject of lettuces, if I head into this fruit cage and kind of clamber past this enormous strawberry bed, dealing with those strawberry runners is definitely a September job for all of us. You can see yet more lettuces that have gone over. These were a little gem. I am definitely trying not to beat myself up over the amount of wasted crops, because compost is one of the biggest or most expensive resources for me. So just being able to use these excess crops as part of the greens in your compost bin, it certainly takes the edge off feeling they're completely wasted. And I especially feel that at the moment, because since we've got the robot mower, I'm not actually putting any grass cuttings at all into the compost bins, which really obviously accelerates the heat in them, because I don't have any anymore. The robot mower mulches it back into the ground, So I have lost that resource. But it is quite satisfying to see when it's done. How colourful. Back into the fruit cage because I have spotted some strawberries. They are still fruiting. I am really impressed with the everbearers. It's important to note that this is my cherry tree. If you've got cherry trees and plums, we are now past the window for pruning those. It's too late, so you're going to have to leave them. But what I'm not going to leave are these last strawberries. I mean, look at those. They're beauts, aren't they? And while I'm in the fruit cage, this is the Hawk Blue Petite Blueberry, the one that put up some more blossom again in summer. And they are almost ripening. I really hope that there's time for the majority of these to ripen before we have our first frost, because, I mean, look at it, absolutely laden. How exciting. I've checked this out on the RHS website. It doesn't have a second flush of fruit normally, so this is very unusual, no doubt caused by the weird summer that we had. But I'm all for it. Now, they aren't the only thing that put up a second flush of flowers in summer. If you remember, the goji berry also rebloomed. And whilst it's looking really rather not very well in many ways, and I'll show you why in a second, it does have some fruit on it. As you can see, there are a few little berries on there now. I'm struggling to get it to focus on them for you. But the plant itself is not looking well at all. It is absolutely covered in powdery mildew. And this is another plant that, if it survives the winter, which I'm hoping it does, it's just the dryness that's caused this, that I think it might have to move from here. It's probably a little bit too messy and sprawly for this area. Yes, Kerry, if you're watching this, you did warn me that it was going to be a bit messy and I wouldn't like it growing there. I have been through here in the last couple of weeks though and taken out the raspberry canes from this year. Everything has finished fruiting in here. So if you haven't cut down your raspberry canes, blackberry canes, things like that, you can be doing those now as well. And probably cutting down some of these sunflower heads. This is the only one I have that is a single head sunflower, and it's enormous. Absolutely enormous, the head on that is. It's as big as my head. I know what you're thinking. Don't get cheeky. Another job to be getting done now is to make sure to cover our alliums, because we are in allium leaf miner season, and obviously I've got these leeks here. I don't know whether this black mesh is fine enough, but for a bit of extra protection, I'm just going to put this white one over the top, and this is the one that I took off the salads right at the beginning of the video. I've spoken about this before, but most of my beds on the garden are 8 foot by 4 foot, which means that these nets can easily be transferred from one bed to another. Another job for September will be lifting our main crop potatoes. Mine were planted in April. Now, I don't think these are quite ready yet, but I am going to tidy up some of the foliage because it's just starting to get a little bit of disease spots on them. I don't think it's blight, but I am obviously cautious of what's going on. And they are going to be prone to slug attacks now that we've started getting rain. So definitely keep an eye on them, even if you're trying to keep them in the ground as long as you can. If you're looking here, these stems are definitely not looking their best now. There's definitely a few under the surface there. This variety is Sarpomera. Just cover them back up, keep them safe. Now, while I finish tidying up this potato foliage, I thought I'd show you the very exciting thing that's happened this week for me on the farm. After 24 years of living here, I finally saved up enough money, and had to borrow some, to buy myself my very first tractor. Going to be using it for my business really, but I have managed to feed the horses a few times with it as well, and I'm in love, absolutely in love. Check this out. Can you tell by my beaming face when I'm driving it that I am absolutely in love with that little tractor? And in So Chatty on Tuesday, I'll actually reveal what business it is that I have that requires me to buy such a tractor. But if you'd like to have a guess what my business is, have a guess in the comments and I'll let you know on Tuesday if you were right. I think that looks a lot neater now, and what it's enabled me to do is just make sure that all of the potatoes are covered, and in the next few weeks I will be harvesting these. But as we've had so much rain, I'm hoping that they might just continue to swell that little bit more. Oh, it's like an obstacle course. Now another job for September will be to cut back the asparagus fronds. These haven't gone completely yellow yet, so I'll be leaving mine for a few weeks, but as soon as yours do go, sort of a yellowy brown colour, cut them off on ground level and compost these. Last year I put these on top of the soil for a little bit, but that's the wrong thing to do because you are at risk then of harbouring asparagus beetle, so I'm going to cut them back and compost them. Now while I'm down this side of the garden, I thought I'd just show you something that quite a few of you have been asking me about. I've had quite a few questions about the state of the pond since I did show you the algae bloom that we had on it recently, and I had hoped that with the rain that we've been having and quite a bit of high winds lately, that the pond will have shown significant improvement in its condition, but unfortunately it hasn't. It is greener and bluer than ever, and it has quite a pungent smell to it. Unfortunately, the blue-green algae test kit that I ordered ended up being sold out, so we never received it. There seems to be no issues with any of the wildlife that makes this pond part of their habitat, but it is still a major concern because we have honestly never seen the water quality like this before, and after a week of quite a lot of rain, we really had hoped to see it improve by now. Another thing to be keeping an eye on in September is the tomatoes, wherever you're growing them, indoors or outdoors, and to be looking out for those signs of late blight and to keep on top of the harvesting of them. I'm not so fussed now about side shooting because mine are really coming to an end. And with that in mind, the most important thing for me, or the most exciting thing in September, is receiving the King's Seed catalogue, and I'll be spending many an evening going through my catalogue deciding what I am and aren't going to be growing in 2026. That's it for this week. I'll catch you on Tuesday for So Chatty, and I'll see you again next weekend. Thanks for watching. Look after yourselves. Bye.